you for being here. Now, the health law section of the Florida Bar hosts monthly Fireside Chats, and this month, as the chair of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, I've organized a chat with the Florida Bar Health Law section of women in the legal profession. And today we will be focusing on 3 extraordinary women that are leaders in the community. We're very grateful to have you here. We will, just so that you know, we will start with our introductions, and then at the end, we will have a question and answer session for about 10 minutes. So hold your questions till the end, please. You could also put them in the chat and we will address them at the end. I just want you to know that if you do have any questions, we will address them. So first, I would like to introduce our first speaker, which is Commissioner Nikki Fried. She is Florida's 12th Commissioner of Agriculture and Consumer Services. She's a lifelong Floridian, attorney, and a passionate activist. We're very honored and grateful to have you here, Commissioner Fried. Thank you very much. She was born and raised in Miami, and she graduated from the University of Florida, where she received her bachelor's, master's, and Juris Doctor degrees. While at the University of Florida, she served as a student body president, and she was the first woman to hold the position in nearly 2 decades. And then as an attorney, she was the head of the felony division at the Alachua County Public Defender's Office and worked in the private practice in South Florida, defending homeowners against foreclosure during 2007 and 2008. Prior to being elected, Commissioner Fried worked at law firms as a government consultant, advocating on behalf of her clients to the Florida legislature. In 2017, she formed her own firm to advocate in Tallahassee for at-risk children, the Broward County School Board, and for expansion of patient access to medical marijuana. And throughout her career, she has served with numerous organizations, including the Young Lawyers Board of Governors, chair of the Broward Days Board of Directors, Legal Needs of Children Bar Committee, Leroy Collins Institute, Girl Scouts of Southeast Florida, UF Florida Governmental Relations Advisory Committee, and the UF Florida, University of Florida Board of Trustees, Florida Children's First, and others. She is also a member of Florida Blue Key, the oldest and most prestigious leadership honorary in the state of Florida. And we welcome her today. Next.
I'm sorry.
Next, we will have April Martindale. She is the owner and managing partner of Martindale Law, located in Broward County, Florida. Ms. Martindale earned her Bachelor's of Science degree from the Florida Metropolitan University, where she graduated magna cum laude in paralegal studies, and she was on the dean's list and president's list every semester throughout college. She subsequently earned her law degree from Nova Southeastern University, and she was the graduation reception speaker. April is very involved in her community and nonprofit projects, and she's currently a member of multiple organizations, including the executive board of Gwen S. Cherry Bar Association as historian, the Broward County Bar Association, American Bar Association, and other notable organizations. With her, and also with her humanitarian spirit, she, in addition to practicing law, she's the co-founder and managing member and director of a 501c3 profit organization in New York. It's called New York Wins, where they help the younger generation engage with purpose and organize in their communities. In addition, she has been a lecturer nationwide as a lawyer, motivational speaker, dealing with the law profession, ethics, mental health, and ways to promote positive and effective change, and challenges overcoming adversity and obstacles. And most recently, she was elected as a fellow into the Florida Bar Business Section Fellowship Program for 2020 to 2022. Thank you, April, for being here today.
Thanks, Maria.
And lastly, we have Iris Elijah. Iris Elijah serves as the Associate General Counsel for Florida International University since 2018. Prior to joining FIU, she was the Assistant General Counsel for the State University System of Florida, Board of Governors, Assistant General Counsel for Florida A&M University, and Attorney Fellow at FIU. It is notable to say also that Iris was the first African-American to serve as counsel for the State University System of Florida, Board of Governors, and FIU. Iris is deeply involved in her civic and legal community with service as a governor for the Florida Bar Young Lawyers Division Board of Governors, representing the 11th Circuit. She's also a member of the Miami-Dade Miami-Dade, Florida Association of Women Lawyers. She's on the board. She's also on the board of the Gwyneth Cherry Black Women Lawyers Association and an active member of other local bar associations. And she also is involved in her community as a volunteer with PACE Center for Girls. Now today, these extraordinary women are going to share their personal experiences and outlooks for the future as women in the legal profession, women in the law, and they're going to highlight the importance of diversity and inclusion of women in the law. They're going to talk to us about the disparities that exist in the legal profession, what they have faced, how these issues have affected them as lawyers in the workplace and their personal life, and how they've overcome these disparities to thrive in their career, and how now they're making a difference as women in the legal community and beyond. So again, thank you ladies for being here, and we will get started with Commissioner Freed.
First of all, thank you, Maria, for hosting this and putting this together, and thanking Iris and April as two extraordinary women to serve on this panel. I'm honored to be part of this today. So as I think I'm on 18 years of practicing law, and certainly the legal profession has changed even in those 18 years that I practiced. When I first got out of law school, I went straight to Holland and Knight up in Jacksonville, Florida, where I believe there was probably, if I remember correctly, maybe 2 female partners in the firm. And things were drastically different. There were some female associates, but certainly it was a constant challenge to really rise in the ranks. And I probably would think that that's the same back then for most women in the legal profession. And, then trying to find that happy balance in your work life and your personal life, and trying to make sure as a first year associates is really putting yourself out there. But what I found, and this could have been also a lot in Duval County as opposed to different portions of our state, is the fact that you still had in Duval County, women had to wear skirts and pantyhose. There was no pants. That was still the inappropriate protocol for up in Duval County. And women still had to make sure that they had closed-toed shoes, and things were just very different. And as I've traveled through my legal career and got really involved and used my legal career kind of in the political setting in government relations, you saw a lot more of the inequalities between men and women in the political front, that there were very few women lobbyists. All of the big firms across the state of Florida that were powerful in nature were all run by men. That the women were kind of seen as junior or even sophomore type of lobbyist. And it still was a very old boys network. There was very few women who were really considered powerhouse lobbyists. There weren't a lot of women involved in leadership capacities, even inside the legislature. I mean, even as of today, in the history of the state of Florida, we have not had a female governor. We have not had a female Speaker of the House, and only one female Senate president. So there is still a huge disparagement between women in the political professions. And so what I was able to do as the first female ever elected as Commissioner of Agriculture is take my life experiences and seeing why that's important. And as I ran for commissioner, a lot of times on the campaign trail, when I would talk about that I was going to be the first female, people said, why does that matter? Why is that an issue? And I said, first and foremost, we come from a different perspective. We come from a more nurturing perspective. We want to get the job done. We don't care about our egos. We don't care about, measuring sticks in a boardroom. We're getting in and we want to try to solve problems, and which is a very different tactic than a lot of our male counterparts. And, we also come from a different perspective on having to balance a lot more of the work-life balances that don't happen and don't have the same type of overhead and pressures that some of our male colleagues have. I know even as commissioner, and an elected official, we as women are thought to be able to do everything. We have to do our profession. We have to be able to work around the clock, yet come home and still be the heads of the household in regards to, making sure that the house is clean and the bills are paid and things that happen at home, who's making dinner, and it still falls onto the shoulders of women. And so we have still to be the best at all levels of our jobs, both on the professional front and on the personal front. And it's a really hard thing to balance, and trying to find supportive spouses that are going to understand that, okay, we're not going to have a hot meal every night. That just isn't going to be the case. And finding that and inside the profession is finding yourself and being able to surround yourself by people that also understand that if your children are sick, or that if your spouse needs to go to a doctor's appointment or go to the hospital, that there's people in the profession that understands that you have to leave, and that the family life still has to take a priority. And so when I became commissioner, one of the first things we did was we created an inclusion and diversity director. Because also inside the Department of Agriculture is a 30-year no movement forward in those directions. There was a very little diversity inside of the department, so felt that was important, both from the diversity inside of the department, but also our outward interaction with those constituents and our all citizens in the state of Florida. So we have an inclusion and diversity director who is involved in the outreach into the communities, making sure that we have a fair representation inside the department. I've hired the most amount of females inside of the department in my executive team. Between my diversity and inclusion director, hired the first ever LGBTQ director, who's also Nick Harris, who is a dynamic LGBT advocate. Have our first ever female deputy commissioner. I've got a female deputy chief of staff, and basically a lot of my big hires throughout our entire administration have been women, and diversity with inside of the department as well, because it's important that if we're going to be leaders both in our communities, inside of the legal profession, and in leadership, that you have to make sure that it is a direct reflection of your values, but making real strides on trying to break down stereotypes, and especially after everything that has been happening this year, which has only enhanced the real intent that we have to have these hard conversations of what is happening with systemic racism in our country, and making sure that we've got people in place to be able to have intellectual conversations and be willing to break molds and be willing to break stereotypes and be willing to make the real changes that people don't like. People don't like change, but we got to force it. We got to make sure that everybody understands that we got to be working together to make these changes. So after, unfortunately, the George Floyd murder, we also upped the antes inside of our department. We had an internal diversity committee that looked at all of the procedures and protocols inside of the Department of Agriculture to see changes that we can make internally. And then we sent out requests to all of the agencies that are overseen by the cabinet to see what exactly other agencies could do too. Because it's important to make sure that we are making changes. We are showing leadership, and having diversity means that all perspectives are viewed, and people are coming with different life experiences. So it's important to not just walk the walk, but also and not only talk the talk, but walk the walk and show leadership on those issues. And so we've made some really huge strides. The opportunity when I get to lead a 4,600 member, it's not a law firm, but we have the most amount of attorneys outside of the Attorney General's office inside the Department of Agriculture. We have an entire legal department. Each one of my divisions also has its own attorneys inside of there, as well as a lot of my leadership positions happen to also be held by attorneys, and felt that was important because we have a different perspective even as we deal with some of the issues inside of the Department of Agriculture. And so, I've tried to show leadership on these issues, seeing things from my 18 years of practicing law and knowing that we need to have a more diverse view of how we deal with not just the legal profession, but public service in general. So again, thank you for the opportunity to come and speak today about this very important issue, not only in the legal profession, because we are also seen, we as attorneys are kind of put on a higher pedestal of things that we should be doing inside of our communities. People look to us to be breaking molds and to really showing leadership inside of our own communities. So it is important that we are taking the first steps in that direction. And I think that the women that you have on this panel have also been, breaking, walls and glass ceilings for their lives too. And so they certainly will have a lot of additional experiences to share and how we all work together to break some of those additional last glass ceilings that are certainly there that we in our generation are going to break down. So thank you for having me here today.
Yes, no, of course. Thank you. And that is very commendable. I was not even aware of that you had taken all these actions for diversity and inclusion and implemented a director. I mean, that's amazing. That really shows and demonstrates how you're making a difference, like not just for women, but for other populations as well. And I'm very proud to have you as our Commissioner of Agriculture. And can you just briefly touch upon what you do in Florida? Because I know a lot of people have they have like a certain view and they think that you are limited to like just, the Department of Agriculture and that and Consumer Services, like they think, oh, this is just like a limited thing, but I know that it encompasses so much more. So if you could just briefly touch upon like where you're like affecting and really making this difference, because I think you do a lot.
Yeah, so, historically, people think of the Commissioner of Agriculture only overseeing agriculture, and that's everything. I mean, agriculture in the state of Florida is significant. We are the #2 economic driver for our state, $137 billion economic impact, 2 million employees, 47,000 working farms and ranches. And so it's everything from water quality to pesticides to fertilizers to just cattle and fish and aquaculture, and so it's really diverse. And right now, during unfortunately the pandemic, agriculture is #1 economic driver for our state. So that is one big chunk. Obviously, that's the chunk that's protected in the Constitution is the agriculture aspect, and then over time is also the consumer services. So it's the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. And the consumer services is so wide. That is everything from the school nutrition program, so all of the food that's inside of our schools, to coordinations with the food banks and national assistance to our food banks, which again, during this pandemic has really heightened awareness of what the Department of Agriculture does. We are the clearinghouse for all consumer fraud in the state of Florida. So anytime dealing with gas station pump skimmers, we just fined a company that was on car warranty call centers that were committing fraud on the do not call list. Almost a $500,000 fine on them. We oversee all of the fair rides here in the state of Florida. We have our Office of Energy, which helps create policies for the state of Florida. We're a think tank for energy and implementation for our state. We also oversee all of our concealed weapons permitting for the state of Florida, as well as all of our security guards, private investigators. We oversee those as well. So our hands kind of get involved in almost every single facet of the state. Again, we have 4,600 employees. We have an entire water policy that oversees, again, all the water policies in the state regarding agricultural land, as well as an entire agricultural law enforcement wing that helps to make sure that we are inspecting all. If you go through on the highways, you see weight stations, that's all us. So all of the weights and measures, you go to the food store. If you check out the next time you're at the food store and you see a scale, you'll see a sticker with my name on it, both at the produce section and checkout. And so we really get our hands involved. And of course, I'm a member of the cabinet. So one of 4 members of the cabinet, myself, the governor, the chief financial officer, and Attorney General consists of the cabinet. So we are also the Board of Trustees overseeing all the land acquisitions for the state, all the regulatory bodies. As a member of the cabinet, we have Office of Insurance Regulation, Financial Regulations, insurance, finances, as far as Department of Environmental Protection falls underneath the entire cabinet as well, highway and motor vehicles, FDLE, and of course the cabinet also serves as our clemency board. So the clemency board, and I can go on an entire tirade and soapbox about how the dysfunction of the clemency board has occurred over the last 20 years, which caused the citizens to uprise and pass Amendment 4, which then the legislature has continuously screwed up. And now we're in lawsuits, and that's because of the just arbitrary and capricious way that the clemency board operates. And so we've been pushing for real changes, but unfortunately, as the only statewide elected Democrat, unfortunately, I get outvoted on some of those changes, but it doesn't mean I'm going to stop fighting to really kind of implement changes on the clemency board. So, and that, of course, is a lot of issues that we take back from my days in the public defender's office and the injustice of the criminal justice system, and seeing some of that, which again is a lot of diversity issues that I see now full circle that I'm trying to fix on the clemency side. But it's there's a lot that kind of encompasses the Department of Agriculture. And so the name it doesn't really do justice of all the responsibilities that falls underneath the commissioner.
Yes, definitely not. That's very expansive. Thank you for sharing that with us. And also thank you for the difference that you're making in all those different areas. Thank you. Right now we have April Martindale. So Miss Martindale,
Yes.
you could tell us about how you've overcome obstacles. I know you're a force to be reckoned with, and we're happy to have you here today.
Well, thank you, Maria. Thank you for inviting me. It's definitely a pleasure and honor to be amongst Miss Nikki Freed and Iris Elijah and yourself. Thank you for having me part of this panel to talk about this, because it's very, very important. As far as disparities, I say for myself, Being a double minority, a Black person, as well as a woman, we kind of get it two different ways. And it's very, very difficult to try to navigate in order to become a force to be reckoned with, or in order to pretty much get your foot in the door with, especially with the business of law and the practice of law. I've had, you know my story. Maria and I went to law school together, so we're familiar with each other's, background. But it's been quite difficult, and there's racial and gender discrimination that impacts those who are similarly situated like myself. In Florida, we have a lot of attorneys, but as far as becoming partners, in the state of Florida, as of 2017, there's only 2% of partners that are Black. I started my own firm because I needed to. Once I graduated and got cleared, I was being offered paralegal positions, and I was offered pay well below my pay grade. Before law school, I was a paralegal for about 10 years. And I worked for various attorneys, and I've worked in various positions, from legal assistant to biller to paralegal to law office manager, law clerk, you name it, I've done it. And once I was done, I was like, I got it. I can do this. And I was still getting the same thing. So why go back? Why go to law school if I'm going to be, treated as if I did not do what I need to do to be given the distinction and the recognition as far as being an attorney who can practice, who knows what she's doing. So it's been hard. As a Black woman in this industry, again, there's systemic gender racism. People that don't look like me uh, tend to be able to have the privilege to get by and get through things. And um, we have to, minority women, not just Black women, minority women, any color, brown, yellow, whatever. It just takes a lot, and it's hard to get your place at the table. Sometimes you have to make your own table in order to, it's hard to fit in. You have to play the big boys games, and you have to. It's difficult. So you have to really have that grit and that perseverance to keep on pushing and make your own way. So there's a lot of burden on minority women to, make that impact or be taken seriously, and it seems like we have to work double hard to prove ourselves as to why we should be let in this profession and given the same deference as others that do not look like us. So it's, it's a burden, but it's a challenge as well. But there's always a way to get over. So what I do, I turn my obstacles into opportunities, and I try to find the blessings in the lessons that I learn along the way. So when there's doors closed, I have to find out what's the best way to get in. What do you do? How do you get in? How do you show your worth to these people? You know your worth, but how do you let that resonate to them? So they understand who you are, and they want to trust you with their business, and trust you as an advocate. And for me, I build relationships, I network, I'm transparent. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm very forthcoming. And that's how I've been able to leverage myself and my business. So I was a solo entrepreneur with Martindale Law. I hired my daughter. I hired my son. I have some interns. I also offer mentorship. So I know how difficult it is to get into the field of law and to the practice of law and understand it. And again, I want to make sure that people understand how hard it is, but I'm here to give a hand up. Anything that I can do, all the things that I've learned. Again, my journey has been very difficult. I'm not going to go through everything. It's been really hard. Just getting through law school, passing the bar. I've had teachers tell me, what makes you think you can be an attorney? What makes you think you could do this, and so on and so forth. So I've always had to push harder and just prove myself and like show up and show out to let I'm not going to go based on what you think of me. I believe in myself. I'm a woman of faith, and I know that I didn't work so hard to not be able to get to where I need to get, whether somebody wants to open the door for me or not. So So yeah, so I just do my best by paying it forward. I give opportunities. This past summer, I had 4 interns. I had 2 mentees, 2 young Black boys there. A mom is an attorney. She's also a nurse. So she's probably part of the health law section as well. But just I open up the office. Anybody can come in and learn from me. I'll bring other individuals to teach them. I've had a couple of colleagues come in and mentor my mentees or talk to my interns and just, make it like a family. So we all feel included and the diversity is important. So I've had white, Black, Spanish, I think the more the merrier, so we all can relate to each other and understand each other's differences and our commonalities as well. So that's one thing that I've brought into the firm that I thought was very, very important.
Thank you. And how have you overcome like the disparities that you say you face as not just a woman, but as a Black
Right.
woman?
All right, well,
what are some things you've done? Like, let's say if you can give some practical examples.
Okay. All right.
To those listening.
Gotcha. All right. So for me, I never accept defeat. I never accept defeat. I don't take no for an answer. So it doesn't really matter what it is. I'm going to find a way to do it. And I'm going to just keep on pressing forward. So overcoming disparities, you have to really believe in yourself. There's always going to be some naysayers. It could be friends, families, foes, or otherwise. But you always have to really know that you have this. And if you have a dream, you got to just push forward and not listen to the chatter in the background. You can't do it. You have to just keep on going. And there's always challenges. There's always obstacles. There's always something. When you get closer to, where you think I'm there, something else happens. So you have to learn how to be able to adapt and change and be ready for whatever is coming for you. But you can't stop. My thing is you can never stop. And I always jump in by faith. I might not think everything through like most logical individuals, but I do believe that the right thing is going to come. And as long as I put in, that hard work, that determination, I pray about it. And if I have questions, I'll go to my mentors. I'll go to those who've been there for me, those who I can learn from. And I try to always make sure that I'm not the smartest person in the room. I feel like there's always something to learn, so it's very important who you deal with or who you surround yourself with. Very, very important. So those are some things I do. Just don't stop. Don't stop. If it's for you, you'll have it, and just don't listen to the naysayers. Go for what you want. Do right, and it's going to come back to you.
That's very inspiring. Thank you. And then what about as a lawyer in your professional life? How would you overcome things like let's say to build your own firm in this law profession? Because in the law, we do have very, strict guidelines that we have to follow. And I know we have the issues you said that you face because they judge you a certain way or they don't give you your worth. So just like as a lawyer building your practice, how would you say you've overcome this?
Okay, well, so I opened up my business in law school. My business was Martindale Legal Services. I started that in 2013, independent contracting paralegal. I had an offer for a huge job contingent upon passing the bar. Didn't get the huge job after I passed the bar. And I was going out looking for jobs, putting out applications and so on and so forth. Again, I wasn't getting what I should have gotten as an attorney, just an entry-level attorney. I wasn't getting those opportunities. So I positioned the Martindale Legal Services and turned it into Martindale Law, and been practicing because I wasn't getting the offers that I needed. So I have this big office suite here in Sunrise, and I just put all my time and energy in building my practice and creating a practice that I thought that other people might want to join or deal with or partner with. It's something where we're a family. People are not treated as a number. Clients know that we're here to check up on them. And, you know, colleagues know, oh, I can send her somebody, she'll take good care of them. So I had to do what I had to do. I built my practice on faith, from the ground up. And, you know, we do intellectual property and business law, and we're doing great even through COVID, which is such a blessing. You know, I know a lot of businesses have, you know, seen another side, but we've been growing, and I'm very grateful. So yeah, just putting my time and effort into the firm to make it compete with others out there that are much larger, which has been amazing, you know. So that's what I've been doing here as an attorney, but definitely grateful for the opportunity to become attorney and practice law in the state of Florida and help others and be part of panels like this and be amongst you great, awesome people. So you know, I have no regrets. I have no regrets. I think that this is just an awesome position to be in, to be able to give back and help your community in any way possible. You know, so thank you again, Maria, for inviting me to be on this panel. It's
That's,
definitely appreciated.
no, of course, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. All right, next, then we have Iris Elijah. Iris?
Good afternoon. Thank you again, Maria, for inviting me here. And then, of course, being amongst Nikki and April really is an honor, because I will have to say, I think I'm the baby lawyer. I think I've been practicing 9 years in October. And from that, it's been a very interesting journey, I will have to say. I never thought I would be here. I was not one of those people who initially grew up and said, I'm going to be an attorney. I had to at first be a residential architect, and I didn't even know how to get there. And then finally I saw somebody who was advocating on behalf of somebody else on a TV show, of course. And I said, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to be somebody that stands up for others and really is a doorway for somebody to excel and whatever that looks like for them. And so that's where I wanted to be a lawyer. I never even met a lawyer until I went to law school. So I don't think we realize some of the customs and the culture and the practices that go along with being a lawyer. And when you go to law school, you realize I have no idea what that really means. And so in addition to being in law school and really learning about, you know, the Black letter law, I also had to learn, this is the way you address something. This is how the systems work. These are the different jurisdictions. It was eye-opening and all new to me. And that's when I really started to feel like, am I really supposed to be here? Is this really for me? And that's when one of my professors, Judge Phyllis Cote, took me to the side and said, this profession is yours and it will look the way you make it look. And that's when I realized that I had to take charge of what I was going to do and be as a lawyer. And that is also one of the driving forces behind the work that I try to do for diversity and inclusion. I don't want anybody else to get to law school. You're potentially 22 saying, I've never met a lawyer. My professor is the first lawyer that I've ever met, and everything that comes along with that. And so serving on the YLD Board of Governors and chairing the Inclusion and Equality Committee and mentoring law students and creating scholarships and doing community service so people know, oh, that's what a lawyer does. They do more than just throw people in jail. They're there for more than just the negatives in life. I want people to look at lawyers as just another member of the community that's within their reach. And so I really don't think we also appreciate the fact that we're not a monolithic group. April and Nikki both touched on this. Yes, we're lawyers. Yes, we're women. Yes, we're Black or from the Caribbean. Yes, you know, we might be from the military. I was born on an Army base. I had to learn what civilian life was like. I had no idea that people would go to school in one place from elementary school all the way to high school. I'd never experienced something like that. And so I had to also learn that, okay, these are the things that are important to other people. And this is where I am different. And this is where other people are different. And that's okay. And also what I did with that is built relationships. Okay, this is where we're similar. And it started something that I was very comfortable with, which includes shopping. And as menial as that may be, commenting on somebody, I love your suit. I love your shoes. Oh, wow, you've traveled there. I've done that too. You bond with them on those levels. And that is how I've built relationships in such a way where our differences are not the highlighting factor. which can seem very overwhelming. And the 2 times that I've been the first Black attorney at FIU, which I know people are stunned by, but that was in 2011. And I think, again, as a side note, that's a reminder that just because you look at an institution or a group and you say, oh, well, they're, it's the Florida Association for Women Lawyers, it represents all women, or this is a Hispanic serving institution, there are still barriers to even be broken there. Because again, we're not a monolithic group. And so I used, again, that opportunity to say, yeah, there are all these differences between us, but we both love great shoes, or we both love to travel. And that not only took you outside of the law, which again, I think we're all tired of the dry networking conversations. Oh, what do you do? But you really bond with people, and people use that opportunity to then, of course, you discuss the law. And then they give you an opportunity to excel in such a way you never even realized. And so that's how I've used something that initially started out as an obstacle, being different from the status quo in the law, to really accomplish something that hadn't been done before or thought about before. And so that's what I always encourage people is find a similarity, whatever it may be, and run with that. Everything that you want, questions about the law or internships or mentoring, will come afterward. And that's also how I try to use the opportunities that I've received to help others behind me. Again, as I said in the very beginning, I don't want anybody to have the exact same story as I about just being a lawyer for the first time, or feeling like when they go to the courthouse, they're treated as a defendant instead of as legal counsel, or feeling like, wow, I'm the youngest person here. Are they going to take me seriously? Or I'm the oldest person here. Are they going to listen to me? It's just using those relationships and, of course, the hard work and your knowledge to move things forward. And again, don't forget, when you make it, that's the opportunity that you use to help others behind you. And so I really, again, just encourage people to not be terrified of being different or realizing that this hasn't been done before, but using the relationship, your experience, and your knowledge to make things happen and to break those barriers. And so I think the other thing that has worked for me is finding mentors. I reached out to somebody that I kind of stalked, I guess, on social media and online. And I realized they had accomplished and embodied everything that I wanted to accomplish and be. And so I found them. Her name is Juliet Rolak. I kept after her. She was awesome until she responded. And she finally said, you know what? You really are determined. You're somebody I can invest in. Let me call you back. And now she's a lifelong friend. I've used social media, and I promise you it's good for more, than gossip and other kind of hard things that you hear. But you really have the opportunity to bond with people. Okay, these are the books you're recommending. Amazing. These are the events and organizations that you're a part of. Awesome. And you expand your network by social media. There are some people, Professor of Crunk, she actually was a panelist on one of the YLD Inclusion and Equality webinars because we found her on social media. And we're just so struck by her views. There are other people like Soledad O'Brien, who I've invited to different events. Clearly, we bonded off of social media, and she's one of my sorority sisters. And again, she didn't know me, but there were enough similarities there. And she really bonded with the message that we were trying to get out in terms of bringing people into the arts, especially diverse individuals. That it was amazing. Social media is really a great way to bond and expand your network. And then I think the last thing, the museum that I think struck with me the most is the African American Smithsonian Museum. And I will have to say it was a great way to see all the people who have made a difference, because sometimes you only are exposed to what you're exposed to and don't realize there's a bigger world out there. There are people who breaking barriers before you even got there, and just realizing that if they can do it, I can as well. And so that would be my recommendation in terms of social media accounts and museums that you could use as a reference to help you, because you're not in this alone. And I think everybody really does strive to make a difference in their mark in the world. Use their work, their personalities, their ability to reach back to help you as well. So thank you again, everyone.
Oh, wow, thank you. Thank you very much. That's very inspiring, like all of you. I'm just blown away by your mindsets and the way that you do everything. So I wanted to just briefly say, if you have any questions, the chat is disabled, but you can email eyoung@floridabar.org and we can take questions that way. So again, it's eyoung@floridabar.org. And so, Iris, if I may, I think one thing that I found very fascinating about what you're saying is, one of our topics here today is how you've overcome disparities and in your career, but it seems from you speaking, it's like you don't even see that there are disparities. You just see everything, like you find the common ground, and like that's how you just move forward in your career. And it's like there's nothing here that there is no disparity, because there's a common ground, and that's where you like put, set you're grounded there, and that's what makes you move forward. Would you say that's an accurate depiction of how you move forward?
It's something that I talk a lot about too, because I've done a lot of research on women in politics and, how we're viewed. If you look back at just, again, women in politics, that women are viewed differently, that in order to be electable, you need to be qualified and likable. Whereas men, you just have to be qualified, if that, and so there's
Right.
there's a different standard for women, unfortunately, that you have to be able to present yourself well. You can't come out as overbearing, or you get labeled an inappropriate word. And so we are working to really break down those stereotypes, and then we have to be, really overly qualified. And I experienced that a lot during my election, because I don't have an ag background. My background in agriculture is I came from the medical marijuana field. And so I talked about how cannabis is the future of agriculture for the state of Florida, and that my legal profession is really what helps me in the consumer services aspect of my office. And so a lot of times I would have to overcome a lot of those issues. And even during my primary, they said, well, how are you going to clean those rivers and waterways in those hills? And I said, just as well as you can in your and you kind of have to just, overcome that. And what I say a lot to not only just to women, but young girls too, and saying, look, we can do everything that anybody, you want to set your dreams and your hopes for. Sometimes we have to work a little bit harder. Sometimes we got to be the ones who are showing up first thing before everybody else in the office is there. We got to be the last ones and be willing to take on more projects and be willing to do it. But we've got the strength to do so. And so we've got the internal determination, and once we can kind of break down some of those initial barriers or facades, we're breaking down those barriers and those walls for the next generation to come after us. And so I was fortunate enough to be on a Women in the Florida Bar panel last year when we used to have bar meetings, when I had an opportunity to be on a panel of some distinguished women, from state attorneys to judges to past bar presidents, and Michelle was the current president at the time, and seeing how the bar and the legal profession has changed and how much it stayed the same. But the women who came before us broke down a lot of barriers and glass ceilings. But yeah, we still have a lot of work to do to make sure that the next generation of women and minority women that come after us don't have the same obstacles that we may have had, during our career. But we've got the strength to do so, and we will keep, barreling through those walls.
No, thank you. And how would you say, you personally, how have you overcome like these issues that you say you when they made that comment, for example, with the heels, like just from a practical perspective, like I know we all have emotions and we all have things, but how do you just deal with it to like keep rising, how you've risen like to this level,
You have no
as as a woman and as a human?
Yeah, you have no choice. You have to, first of all, realize how ridiculous the comments are and laugh them off, and not take them seriously, and know that because they're trying to do it to bring you down. They're trying to do it to poke at you and to kind of rattle your confidence. And if you rise above it and put them in their place, and then, just do a kick butt job when you're there. And, I get the best, the success is the best form of revenge. And you just show up and you are successful, and you just keep working, and you don't let anybody tear you down, and you just have to kind of rise above it, and and make them feel stupid, because it's so, at this point in 2020, to even think that those are appropriate comments, it's just laughable. And so you just kind of have to put them in their place by just laughing it off and rising above it, and showing them that we're equally, if not more so, capable of doing the job that we're seeking out to do.
Right. No, that's a great attitude to take. Thank you so much for sharing that. And lastly, do you have any suggestions for any books, or anything that any podcasts or anything that you think would be valuable to develop this mindset of just moving forward despite anything?
Yeah, I've read a lot of books in my career, and this is not really so much in regards to women in leadership, but I did just finish a fantastic book by Fred Guttenberg, who is a Parkland parent who lost his daughter during the shootings. And he wrote a book called Find Your Helpers. And meaning that everybody's got issues in their life. Everybody has a bad day. Everybody is going through, especially during the pandemic, everybody is experiencing loss in different ways. And you go find the people who on that day give you that little bit of extra support and that extra push those days, and be those helpers. You don't even know when you say hello to somebody, or you reach out, or you do something in just your normal course of business, and the type of impact. I was fortunate to be included in his book, and I did nothing besides just be a support system for him and to fight against the NRA inside of my office. And so he, has found that just my fight and my determination, I became a helper to him, and having faith in that politicians actually will take on the big fights. And so I think that, again, it's not a book necessarily talking about women in leadership, but just how to be a human, and how to interact with people, and to know that everything you do on an everyday basis, you have an opportunity to make an impact, even if you're not realizing you're doing so, making an impact on people's lives. You don't know when somebody comes into a Zoom or to a conversation, what baggage that they brought with them into that meeting. And so you always have to be a human, and be polite and supportive, and just check in with people. And just that little phone call, that little extra attention to somebody might be, make or break for that person that day.
Thank you, Commissioner Freed. That's a worthwhile recommendation. Thank you very much. And I know that you have a call to attend to. So thank you for everybody, for the speakers, for being here. Before we do go, April, do you have any suggestions for any books?
Yes, there is a book that was referred to me or suggested. It's called the E-Myth book. And it tells you, as far as for those who are entrepreneurs, lawyers, how to run your firm, but not be in the business, be outside of the business, but let your business work outside of you. So you're not wearing different hats. You're not the CEO and the marketing manager, but you're not all of that. You're this one person, and you delegate and have other people doing it, following behind you. So that's one good book. Becoming by Michelle Obama is awesome. What else we have? Get Rich or Not Get Rich or Die Trying. There's one of these books. I know that you ladies, you people probably have read already, but there's so many awesome books. The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. There's a lot of different ones. I can always, I'll send you a list and let you know so we can share it.
Okay, thank you. And Iris, do you have any recommendations for books or podcasts or anything that you think would be worthwhile?
Yes. Well, first, it wouldn't be a Zoom meeting if my internet didn't go out at the same time. So I apologize about that. But my favorite book is not really about women in leadership, but it really is an opportunity for you to delve into who you are, which I think you have to know to be good at the law or the business. And it's called The Resolution for Women by Priscilla Schreier. And that really was an opportunity for me to not only digest the things that I needed to think about in terms of who I am and therefore what I wanted to achieve in this life, but it really challenged me a lot on whether who I say I am in public is exactly who I am in private. So that probably is the number one book that I've read, and I revisit that book and my responses all of the time, because my character, again, guides where I'm going.
Oh, definitely. Thank you. That's integrity. I think that's something that, yeah, that it makes us all who we are. And definitely as women, I think we do have something more to offer just because of our nature of being more nurturing. And I mean, there's other things, but we are all equal. I think all of you are just examples of this mindset and attitude of just how we can overcome anything and really not, let any seeming disparity or anything in society make us stand back or not fulfill our full potential. So thank you so much for being an example of that, for sharing your experiences. The Florida Bar Health Law Section thanks you very much and is honored to have you here. Thank you for your time. Commissioner Freed, thank you very much for your time and sharing all your experiences and your own guidance. We appreciate it. Thank you, April, and thank you, Iris. And I wish everybody very happy holidays.